I'm joined this morning for our annual recap of progress in Jersey City around public safety today by our U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey, Phil Sellinger, who could speak to some of the collaborations and progress we've made that wouldn't have been possible without them. And of course, our Public Safety Director, James Shea, and then leadership from Police and Fire. Subsequent to this, I know there were some questions around flooding, so we do have our OEM Director here as well, and we'll go through that. But we'll start with some of the data from 2023, and then we'll open it up to questions. So first, I want to speak to, starting in 2014 to 2023, the most violent of crimes, which is homicides and shootings. You see a steady trend downwards from the mid-20s to this year. It's actually, we unfortunately had a homicide this weekend, a stabbing, so that number is actually 10. But it still represents the lowest homicide rate that this city has ever seen since records have been kept. Significant progress. Some of those homicides represent domestic violence, which is obviously very, very hard to intervene on, but the city does have a court process, a partnership with our judicial system around that. So we've made some big progress on that front as well, but we're very proud of that. And if you go to the next slide, it speaks to kind of where we are from a comparison standpoint to other cities on the East Coast. When you compare the 100 largest cities in the country, which is generally where our comparison is, Jersey City for the first time ranks lower than New York from a homicide rate, safer, and amongst the lowest, actually the lowest on the entire East Coast. The data actually shows it's the lowest on east of Texas, so the eastern half of the United States, we have the lowest homicide rate, which really speaks to the progress we've made. Now, I want to say that that progress wouldn't be possible without the partnerships, and one of the most important partnerships that we have is with the Office of the U.S. Attorney, and that's why Phil Sellinger is here today. We've been able to lock up some of the most persistent and violent people in New Jersey City due to the collaboration and partnerships with the U.S. Attorney's Office. So I'm going to turn it over to Phil Sellinger to speak a little bit about that partnership and the progress we've made together.
Thank you, Mayor Fulop and Public Safety Director Shea, for inviting us to speak today. I'm joined today by the Deputy Chief of my Criminal Division, Desiree Grace, who leads our Violent Crime Initiative here in Jersey City. And our thanks to the Mayor and Public Safety Director for their partnership and ongoing commitment to working together to stem the flow of violent crime. Keeping our communities safe is the most fundamental mission of law enforcement. And we at the United States Attorney's Office are truly honored to have partnerships like we have here with the Jersey City Police Department and our other federal and state partners in working together to stem the flow of violent crime. Throughout this partnership, we have committed federal resources to this effort and to ensuring the safety of Jersey City residents, and that is, as I said, our highest priority. This year, as the Mayor indicated, we have seen record-breaking statistics in Jersey City. While every homicide and senseless shooting is tragic, these hard-earned reductions in homicide and shootings are the result of the collaboration from those who are up here today and others as well. Together, the Jersey City Police Department, my office, and our other law enforcement partners have gathered intelligence over years that have helped us target those who have caused the violence in the communities here. And for our part, we have prosecutors who are assigned to each of the neighborhood gangs who cause violence in Jersey City, and we have prosecuted members of each of those gangs. In the federal system, a gang-related murder carries a mandatory life sentence. That's a mandatory life sentence not just for the shooter, but for the person who drove the car to the murder, to the person who hid the guns after the murder, and to the leader who directed other gang members to commit the murder. And every time a firearm is discharged, each time the trigger is pulled, that too is an offense with a mandatory minimum of 10 years in prison. And that's true whether or not somebody is shot. It's the pulling of the trigger that constitutes that offense. In the course of our partnership with the Jersey City Police Department and others, we have charged hundreds of offenders here in Jersey City. We currently have 8 alleged Jersey City gang members facing mandatory life sentences for murder. We have more than 20 more alleged gang members facing potential life sentences for non-fatal violent crimes in furtherance of gang activity. And other investigations are ongoing as well. This year, the federal, state, and local partnerships have demonstrated that the kind of collaboration the mayor and I am talking about actually works. As we began the year, our focus was on a gang that operated in and around the Marion housing complex, Gardens complex, and there were suspicions of murders allegedly committed by members of that gang. And as a result of the investigation, in March, we charged 10 alleged members and associates of Marion. That marked our second sweep of that gang following a 2021 RICO conspiracy indictment. During the summer, our focus shifted to members of the neighborhood-based street gangs operating around Triangle Park and Rutgers Avenue. That gang is known as the Rutgers Gang, and they were suspected of committing at least 5 non-fatal shootings earlier in the year. And relying on a number of investigative techniques, including gun intelligence, crime gun intelligence, we charged and arrested 5 alleged members and associates of Rutgers for their gang-related activities. Other investigations into them and other members continue as well. During our investigation and arrest of one of the gang members, a gun that was tied to the 5 shootings was seized. Other handguns were recovered as well. In addition to investigating and prosecuting shootings, we're also committed to investigating and prosecuting firearms possession, especially when it is linked to gun trafficking. In May of this year, Clarence Gaffney of Jersey City was sentenced to 20 years in prison for possession of a loaded gun and possession with intent to distribute drugs. And in October of this year, Jabbar Evans of Jersey City was convicted at trial for possession of 2 firearms, as well as a significant quantity of drugs. His sentencing is pending, but he faces substantial exposure as well. These are but a few of the examples that have been able to be accomplished as a result of the collaboration between the Jersey City Police Department, the United States Attorney's Office, and our other partners. And we're very thankful of Mayor Fulop and Police Director Shea for their ongoing collaboration in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, U.S. Attorney Phil Sellinger. And I just want to highlight those sentiments again. You know, we spoke a lot about the fact that guns traffic into New Jersey from our neighboring states, and there seems to be an infinite number of guns and availability to New Jersey residents, illegal firearms, but there's only a small number of people that will terrorize a neighborhood and actually fire a gun. And working more closely with the U.S. Attorney's Office has made all the difference. This VCI initiative was established in 2018, and the results speak for itself. And Jersey City is a safer community because we are removing those most violent offenders from our streets. I'm going to turn over to the next slide and invite Director Shea up to speak a little bit about the other categories of crimes and where we're seeing improvements and where we're seeing where we're moving slightly backwards. But turn over to Director Shea.
Thank you, Mayor Fulop. Good morning, everybody. Before I start on the crimes, I would just like to also extend my gratitude to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Violent Crime Initiative, coordinated with retired Captain John Sabo out of my office, and they really have done a great job at getting the difficult, persistent, stubborn problems removed from our from our streets and giving us time to try to improve the quality of life in the community. Also, our other partner, the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office, under Prosecutor Esther Suarez and their homicide unit. The mayor mentioned we have 10 homicides. That's a historic low, which we're happy about. But we're also happy 9 out of the 10 have already been solved. And the 10th one happened Friday. And I anticipate that also being solved quickly. So we can't say enough about the work that that homicide unit does, also removing dangerous people from our streets. In line with that, I don't want to seem like we're just doing enforcement. Under Director Moody, you see standing up here with us 2 of our pastors, Pastor Atwater and Pastor Revels. We have a pastor program now that Director Moody developed that works with victims of violence in all our communities in the city. They'll work with the community, with the victims, with bystanders, and even with the perpetrators' families to work to try to give help, to give guidance. At every violent incident, they're out there as fast as the police are. They're in the hospitals. And I wanted to take this opportunity to give a public thank you. You have to represent all 4 for me, and I want to give a public thank you to them for the work they're doing. As far as crime goes, everybody can see the numbers here. We're happy that they're going down, but they're going down. We'd like them to go down more. We're going to keep working on that. You can see that we'd rather it go down than up, but it's we would, again, like to see even more going down by next year. We're going to be instituting a number of new programs to try to continue this progress. 2 of our major crimes are showing slight increases. Robbery. Interestingly, we talked about robbery last year. The same trend is continuing. Robbery with a gun, robbery with a weapon is going down. Robbery without a weapon is increasing. And when we go through the numbers, retired Captain Sabo and I, what we're finding is all of these are shopliftings. They start as shopliftings, and as the shoplifting progresses and the person is confronted by a store clerk or someone else, they then threaten to use violence against that person to get away, turning that shoplifting or petty larceny into a robbery. Larceny of property plus the threat of violence. And in the old days, prior to bail reform, which I'm a huge fan of, the mayor is, we all are, we like bail reform, but one of the negatives, I always say there's unintended consequences. One of the negatives was, in the old days, they very much did not want to turn that shoplifting to a robbery, because if they did, it meant they stayed in jail and they weren't eligible to be released immediately. Now with bail reform and everybody getting out until their trial date, there's less of an incentive for them to not try to bluff their way out or threaten violence to get out of the robbery. So we're seeing that increase. We're not sure how we're going to address that, and I look forward to the day when these persistent offenders get their trial a lot faster. Again, I'm not anti-bail reform. I do believe they deserve bail just like anyone else, but I'd like to see them progress through the state system quicker so they have less opportunity. The other place we're seeing a slight increase, but it's only from 783 to 789, is in aggravated assaults. And that's a slight increase, but it's not a decrease. So we're going to have to dig through that. We're happy that our shootings and our homicides are going down, but we're not seeing the same increase in just kind of simple assaults that happen out in the streets. So we're going to have to dig through that this year and come up with new strategies to address that. So, over here.
I'm going to move quickly through the other slides, and then we'll open it up to questions. Next slide is Vision Zero. Last year we had 0 fatalities on Jersey City streets. It's been a big initiative of ours, partnering with the community, driving that down to 0 based on the data. We've had a slight uptick this year. We're still below the numbers when we started, which was 11 to 12 per year. We're at 4 now for 2023. None of those intersections with the 4 fatalities have been intersections that have seen Vision Zero improvements yet, so we will be tackling those in 2024 and continuing the downward trend. Next slide. This speaks to, the consistent flow of guns into Jersey City. We generally get somewhere between 200 and 300 firearms off the street. This is done in a safe way, which really speaks to the training of our police department. We've reinforced training as an emphasis under Director Moody, and this year we've had 211 illegal guns taken off of our streets here, and we've done it safely, thankfully, without police officers being hurt. One of the big initiatives since we took office in 2013 is the installation of more cameras. This has been a big part of the progress that we've seen with our partnerships with the U.S. Attorney's Office. Often we find that witnesses are reluctant to participate in the judicial process for fear of retaliation. Having high-quality cameras that can be used for evidence has certainly helped in us getting some of those individuals off the streets. Next slide. This right here speaks to the investment we made in manpower, both in fire and police. I'll focus on the police because that's predominantly what we've been discussing here today. We started 779 officers in 2013. We're now between 900 and 1,000 consistently. We've put in the budget several new classes for next year as we are expecting some more retirements. And then finally, this speaks to the budget changes. You could see the police and public safety budget has been relatively flat since 2013, certainly over the last couple of years. That's despite the fact that we've been hiring more and we've obviously been investing more in public safety, but you could see the consistency. You see 2013 and then it's 2021, 22, and 23. Where we've put significant more money into was the fire department. And that's reflected here in our budgets. It was someplace that was underfunded when we came into office, and we've tried to work with our chief and director in order to get that to a place where it is today. It's the best fire department in New Jersey. It's often recognized as such, and we're thankful for the work that they do.